let's get this thing kicked off. First of all, a thank you to Teg. I said it before. Teg put Kristine and I on a panel. Why I was ever on a panel with Kristine, I have no idea. But I'm grateful for it because it got us here today, which is pretty cool. And for all of our members, we have, I think, probably over 100 members in Florida alone. So far, the news has been pretty good. I think everybody is doing okay, which is great. If anybody needs anything, obviously reach out to us. But I talked to David Ferguson, who's in Naples, and they got really walloped. But he's doing okay. So I'm thankful for all of our friends in Florida that they're doing well. Some real quick housekeeping stuff. So our next 3 book clubs, just to announce those, this month we're reading Iman Obu's book, The Glass Ledge, which is phenomenal. So she went from being a research scientist to winning Miss New York to being the CEO of Sway Media. The Glass Ledge is phenomenal. Iman is joining us November 1st to talk about The Glass Ledge. Our book for November is Mark Champagne's book, Personal Socrates, and he's coming on December 6th. And then we end the year with Daisy Auger Dominguez, her book, Inclusive Revolution. She's the Chief People Officer for Vice Media, and it's just unbelievable. So we're reading her book in December, and she's going to join us in January. Our Legend Series conversations. This is a pretty good lineup we've got coming up. So next Tuesday, we have the 87-year-old founder of Reebok, Joe Foster. He is an absolute legend. Joe at 87 seems to me like a puppy dog. He's got so much energy. He's so positive. I love that an 87-year-old sends me emojis. I don't know what it is. I just think that's cool. So we've got Joe Foster next Tuesday. Do not miss that. We follow that up, John Barrows, on October 25th. He's the founder of Sell Better. They are the sales training company for LinkedIn, Google, Salesforce, you name it. John has a mere 400,000 LinkedIn followers. So he's a bit of a rock star as the founder of Sell Better. And then we have another living legend. We have Meredith Vieira, who's a broadcast icon. She's joining us on November 8th. She's 60 Minutes fame, The View, Today Show, Dateline, you name it. So the format, for anyone who has never been on a book club or a legend series, the format is the same. It's 30 minutes of me talking to whoever our guest is, and then 30 minutes of Q&A. The way that we do the Q&A is just drop in the chat that you have a question. You don't have to ask your question in the chat. And then Kathy will let me know that you've got a question, and we'll tee you up and you can ask your question directly to Kristine Lilly. So today it is an absolute honor. The accolades, like I could go on and on. 3 Olympics, 2 gold medals, 5 World Cups, 2-time world champ, 4 consecutive NCAA national championships with UNC. They lost 1 game in her 4 years. She spent 23 years on the U.S. women's national team. She's the most capped football player in history with, I think, 354. And I don't even think it's close. I think like second is low 3s. And then like on the men's side, it's Cristiano Ronaldo with like 190 or something like that. So Kristine is definitely the Cal Ripken of soccer. She's the author of Powerhouse, which we're going to talk about today. Fantastic forward by Mia Hamm, and probably the best praise for quotes I've ever seen in my life. Tom Brady, Sheryl Sandberg, the CEO of Facebook, or COO of Facebook, Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, Billie Jean King, Gino Auriemma, all-time legend, coach for UConn women's soccer and or basketball, I should say. And those are just some of Kristine's amazing accolades. And yes, she has a street named after her. So if you ever go to Wilton High School in Connecticut, you'll probably be on Kristine Lilly Way, which is pretty cool. So without further ado, Kristine, welcome to the Outlier Project Book Club. We appreciate you joining us.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction. I have to say my street, the street that's named after me is the one that connects the high school. And I think it's the one we used to speed on all the time. So it's pretty funny that that's the street that they chose. No, it's wonderful to be here and chat with you and everybody. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, so this is the book that we read last month. It's Kristine's book that she put out in 2019. And I know we've got a ton of leaders on the phone today. And so teamwork is just so important. And that's really what it is. It's 13 teamwork tactics that build excellence and unrivaled success. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I've got so many questions for you, Kristine. Let's start with, what do you think makes a great team? And you could talk about maybe the 4 pillars. And what makes a great teammate? Is there a difference between a great team and a great teammate?
Well, that's a loaded question, I think. But I think, when I started writing this book with my other co-authors, John and Lynette Gillis, who I met in Austin, Texas, who are in the business world and the educational world, we were kind of just talking about what was missing in those worlds that are different than the sports world. Because in sports, you always have to come together as a team to make your team successful. If one person's going on their own, they may be getting all this stuff, but if the team's not all with them, I don't think the team's going to be successful. But I think in the business world and other parts of the world, you can move up a ladder individually. But I think overall, if your big picture as your company or organization is to grow, and whether it's to make money or to be the number one or this, you're going to need everyone together doing that. And I think that's in essence why we wrote the book, more so to share the stories of the U.S. Women's National Team, because I think if you look at any sports team, that team's probably one of the most successful in the entire world, where we've been, and where we still are. So I wanted to share the stories, which Brandy knows all the stories and knows what it meant to be on that team, and highlight what we did together, because it wasn't one person. It may have been in the media made it look Brandy went, takes the last kick and wins, but she would be the first to say, it wasn't just that kick. So there's so many elements that we did as a team to be successful. So I think to be, I forgot the second part of your question. It was about the
being a great teammate.
Yeah. I think you need to be a great teammate. There's no ifs, ands about it. And I think what also gets caught in the mix about being a great teammate, sometimes being a great teammate is scoring the goals.
Right.
Sometimes being a great teammate is, if you're on the bench, being the best cheerleader to your team. Or a great teammate is just on your own when you're training and you need, you had a game coming up, make sure you're putting the time in so you're ready when you get to that team. So there's so many different ways being a great teammate can fall. And I've been so fortunate to have so many great ones on the national team. And through this book, you can see each chapter highlights one of my teammates, and they share a bit of token of information of what we did to help our team be so successful.
In the intro, I thought this was really interesting. Mia talked about that you have to practice teamwork every single day, just like you practice technical or tactical skills. How do you do that? How do you practice teamwork?
Well, I think, there's the aspects on the field stuff, which we go through every day in practice, whether it's practicing our corner kicks, knowing your position on corner kicks, knowing your position on free kicks, knowing what system we're playing, because we all need to be doing that together. And then you have off the field stuff where maybe we're doing some team building stuff, which we're doing stuff, getting people out of their comfort zone, leadership stuff, different leaders come through on different activities we do, or just spending time together. And that really are elements that were extremely important in our culture and our chemistry. And I think what was kind of interesting in the beginning, I didn't really care for this, but every time we went on a trip, we always had a different roommate. And I was always like, oh, because I know who I could, you know who you could get along with, who, was a night owl or early person, But in the end, when I look back at it, it was so important because we got to know different people more. I mean, you have your friends that you spent more time with, but then you got to know, the ones maybe you didn't spend as much time with, when you would sit at lunch or anything. And I think that really helped our culture a lot.
So over the course of 23 years and 354 games, you started, I think you were 16. You were like a junior at Wilton when you were put on the team. And I think you're the youngest person to ever score a goal. You're also the oldest person to ever score a goal. And that's a long time, 23 years. Did you have to change your approach as a new generation, as you were starting to play with a new generation? I know Brandy in your book talks about embracing the green and the gray. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think, I think on the national team, we've always had like a core of the same players. I mean, shoot, there was for 17 years, there's a core of like 8 to 10 of us that were on the team. So that was pretty incredible. And that's also when I look back to our team, you don't see that. You don't see a core group of people staying together for that long. So that was really special. But you had new players coming in. And I think as a young player joining the national team, I was just putting my head down, opening my ears and listening and just doing what I needed to do, taking in as much as I could because I was new, young, not probably as good as some of those players that were before me, or trying to just take as much in as possible. So I think as a young player, there's a sense of just kind of finding your way a bit. And then I think as you grow to be more of a veteran player, gray, or as you could say, you kind of get into a leadership role. You, help the new players in. And when I say help, I don't mean, here you go, here's a spot for you. It's more so, okay, this is what it's going to take to be here. And then off the field stuff is when you connect with them as well. So there's definitely an evolution on being on a team for that long and being a new player, green to gray. And then just bringing all those elements together. So, I mean, the first chapter, it's about in the book's about selecting team, and Brandy's highlighted in this chapter. And I think what's great too is you're selecting a team, but you're selecting a team of individuals that are different and unique. If we had all the same me or all the same Brandy, our team wouldn't flow as great. We needed the personalities. We needed a Fowdy. We needed a Mia. We needed Michelle, a Carla. Everyone, we were all so different, but we highlighted our strengths to come together. So when you're selecting a team or being part of an organization, you don't want all the same. You want difference, and you want the strengths of each of those people to be highlighted. And that was really, really evident in our team of getting the best out of what we all had.
I think in corporate America, it's so hard for people to truly embrace diversity. There's a lot of talk about it, but what people really want, in my estimation, is they're looking for culture fit. They're really looking for people that are pretty homogenous, like everybody's pretty much the same. And I think when you do that, you don't really build the best team. So in your opinion, was it very intentional on the national team to bring in a diverse group to ultimately build the most successful team?
I think you're building the best of the best. And when I mean the best of the best, I don't necessarily mean the best players. I think, you have to have the talent to be on the national team, but also there has to be more to it. Your background, your work ethic, your whole being. And so I think whether it was Anson picking the teams or Tony picking the teams during that time, I think they picked the best people to fulfill the mission we had, which was to be the best. And that included all different walks of life. And I think that was important.
Yeah, the selection.
Go
I
ahead.
know
Oh, go
this
ahead.
is not my I know this is not my discussion, but I would say that the national team actually had an evolution in that, I think, in the beginning, because it definitely had a culture and the way it wanted to do things. And when after 95, Tony DeCicco took over he took over the team just before the 95 World Cup, and then subsequently went on to be the coach for 96 and 99. And I would say culturally, the team changed.
Mhm.
And so I think that was a little bit of a disruptor that, for the people who had been around and been comfortable in the way things had been going, and then to make a change was, I think, really significant in seeing that this group actually had the adaptability to to make that change. And I think that's something about culture and diversity that really needs to be highlighted. Is we could have people that are used to doing things one way, but we need to exercise the muscles and our plasticity to be able to do things another way, out of necessity, out of circumstance, out of new leadership, whatever it is. For Kristine, I'm speaking as her teammate now. She's a perfect example over 23 years being able to do that.
Yeah, amazing insight. I think a lot of leaders are scared to death to have that elasticity. Kristine, what are your thoughts on what Brandy had to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's change. Tony took over from Anson being the coach, brought in a total different style of coaching as well, to the mix, and a new coach before us. But our team, we did adapt, and I think we adapted not only to situations like that, we adapted to about everything. I mean, we're traveling to China, in middle row, and then we get there, and the food is not very great, and we're eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for 2 weeks, or oatmeal, so there's so many elements that you have to be strong. You have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to take whatever situation is before you and make the best of it. And I think that's also what this team did. That there's so many, I mean, everyone looks at the wins and losses in the championship, but there's so much this team did throughout the years that sometimes I just scratch my head and like, really, we got to go through all of that sometimes. That just made us stronger. It made it even more, when I look at, more amazing what we did accomplish.
Yep. So that resiliency, you think,
Mhm.
and overcoming adversity played a big
Yes,
role.
definitely, most definitely.
So this is called the Outlier Project, and we always talk about anybody can be ordinary, but we all have the power to choose to be extraordinary. And there was something in the book, I'm not sure where it was in the book, but it was a story about Carla Overbeck. I think you guys were preparing for the 96 Olympics.
Mm.
And you're in Florida, and I think it's hotter than Hades. And, she's basically saying, like, nobody's out here doing this stuff. So I think of those moments, those are outlier moments. Like, you guys are all outliers in your own way, because you're not afraid to show up differently, and you're not afraid to do things that other people won't do. And it's won't do, not can't do, because pretty much everybody can do things differently. But I think people that rise to the level that you've risen to, and Brandy, are people that are willing to do it.
Yeah.
How important is that to building a successful team?
Yeah, it's important because if you look at our team, we could have settled. We won the first World Cup in '91, and we could have been like, "Oh, we're world champions. That's it. We're good. We're good." But we always wanted to be more. We wanted to continue to win, and then the same process, we wanted to still grow the women's game. But I think the story that you're talking about with Carla in that situation too was, I also remember a time we're running fitness, and we used to do this fitness test, which is, they were called Ricky Marvins. And they're a big square, and then a smaller square, and then a littler square. And you basically had to run as fast as you can around the square. And it doesn't seem like it would be very hard, but your hamstrings by the end of it are just about ready to pop. And I can remember one time we're running, and you had to do like 3, and then we went down to 2. It was crazy. And I remember one time we were just about done, and then you hear Carla like, "We're doing one more," and we're like, "We are." But like, if Carla and our captain spoke. If Carla said we could do it, we could do it. So we had that mentality from our leadership. And then, the team just took on things. And it's important because you don't want to you don't want to just settle. You don't want to be just fine. We always talk about getting out of our comfort zone, trying new things, trying different things. I mean, Brandy's a great example, taking the World Cup penalty kick to win the game with her left foot, which granted, it's just as good as her right, but probably not her first choice, maybe. And to do something like that, I mean, I found that story out after, and I'm like, that was nuts. So, but you know what? In her head, she's already trained it. She's already been there. The coaches believe that she could do it, so she had that with her. And those are all elements of greatness. Those are all elements of the success we had because we're willing to do those things, wanted to do those things, and supported each other in that process, which I think was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think what's also unbelievable about that moment with Brandy, kicking with her left foot is she did it in front of 90,000 people and about 40 million people watching on TV. So,
and I still get nervous.
Me too.
I think Brandy, didn't you tell me once you're like, I wonder if I'm going to miss? And
every time I'm like, oh, one of these days it's not going in.
Right. How important, Kristine, is for a team to be successful? Is it to have fun? And was there anyone on your team that maybe danced or did any like impersonations or anything like that really got you guys going and laughing and had fun?
No, we didn't have any characters on our team that did that. Nobody. I mean, the element of fun, I think is starting to be more talked about nowadays because we're missing that so much in youth sports, and I think at every level sport. I mean, professional, these kids playing club soccer, my daughter's just getting into it, and I'm like, they have like 3 different practice gears and all this like professional look. I'm like, forget that. Just play and have some fun, make it. And we had that's what I'm saying. When we have different personalities and characters on our team, I mean, Foudy comes to mind. I think probably first thing Brandy thinks of is Foudy. But we did have the best thing. One of the best things Julie brought to the team, she had many, was the doing your best worst. And what that meant is basically doing your best dance possible that is the worst dance you could do. So it's your best of your worst. So you'd be in the locker room, and I mean, Foudy did it the best. We just let her take over. But it basically just made everybody laugh a bit and a little bit looser before, we're about ready to take the field with 90,000 people watching us play. So there's definitely that element that's super important to have fun, because if you're not enjoying what you're doing,
right,
it becomes a job, not fun. You don't want to go there. Your attitude changes, and it just snowball effect. So the fun is definitely important about it.
And were you guys, I'm just curious, were you guys like that even before the biggest games?
Mm-hmm. I think that's what's kind of interesting. It didn't matter if we were playing like a friendly or inter squad or playing the boys. Our mentality preparation was always the same. And it included some laughing and it included, and I think that's so important because when you're high strung getting ready for a World Cup final in front of 9,000 people, I remember I was so extremely nervous for that game, just because we didn't have time to warm up on the field to get the nerves out. So we were underneath like the Rose Bowl and the cement, trying not to slide on our cleats to warm up. And I remember we had a mental skills coach, Dr. Colleen Hacker, and I said, Hack, I go, I'm nervous. She's all right. So she tells me this joke. And then I stood there, I'm like, well, that didn't work. But in the same aspect, it made me laugh, that I just got a release. So it's so important, your preparations to be the same. And whether it's a World Cup final to playing, the U16 boys that we played, to have that same mindset going in is extremely important, because it wouldn't matter what it is. It's still a game. Yep. You still got to produce, you still got to get out there and play. So our coaches, I think, did a great job, especially Tony, of preparing us for any situation that took place on the field.
Yeah. It reminds me of that famous story of Joe Montana. He's in the huddle. They're playing the Bengals in the Super Bowl, and they're driving for hopefully what would win the Super Bowl. and he says, "Hey, is that John Candy in the stands?" And everyone, it just loosened everybody up, and he winds up throwing a touchdown pass to John Taylor, and they win the game. But it's so important. So you coach, you do a ton of youth camps.
Mhm.
What do you do with them beyond just teaching them the fundamentals of the game?
Well, I'd like to say I'm pretty funny. So Brady would think I'm hilarious. No, but I do. I mean, I'm not funny, but I try to be.
Brandy, is it true or false?
I mean, I don't know. I just laugh, so she's got to be funny.
Yeah, so that's funny. That's that in and of
See?
itself.
I'm funny. So, I mean, the elements of my camp, we have like, they get a snack break, and then right before snack break, I tell a joke, and I think it's funny, it's fine, the kids' jokes. But then I have the kids come up, and they're so excited. I'm like, okay, who's got a joke for me? So they raise, and the first day, maybe like 3 or 4 kids raise their hands. And usually one of the kids, like a 6-year-old's like, well, I have a riddle. I was like, oh gosh, not the riddles, because they take forever. But usually the first day, like a couple come up and then tell their joke. And I always have them say their name and, share the joke. And, everyone gives them 2 claps after they're done. And there's rhyme or reason behind it, because no one likes to be in front of a group. I think it's not, some people, I want to say no one. There are some people that enjoy it and have the comfort of it, but a lot of us have to go through the process of feeling comfortable. So these kids get an opportunity to be in front of the whole group. And then, they go the next day. And then the next day I ask this, who wants to tell a joke? And I have like 10, 15 hands up. And for me, I think they just want to tell the joke and they forget where they are, standing amongst their peers. So, I add elements of that into, we have a fun warm up. And we have a World Cup, tournament at the end, which they decorate in their countries. So they're learning the colors of their countries and what team they are. And, we usually have teams that are in the World Cup or the Olympics, depending on what year it is. But and I always let one country in that's usually not in either, and that's Djibouti, because the kids think it's the funniest country to be. So there's just elements of trying to bring some fun to it and trying to get them to realize getting out of their comfort zone means not only on the soccer field, but doing other things as well. So
Right.
they seem to enjoy it.
I do think you see a lot of that in both of my boys were in the military, and I have a ton of friends in the military. You see a lot of that humor and fun injected into these high stress situations. Your husband's a firefighter, so probably same thing. Teamwork is so important. And so I think injecting fun into that is really vital. So before we go to Q&A, because we've got a lot of people that want to ask you questions, why did you guys call Brandy Hollywood?
Well, actually, if my memory serves me right, I think it started, I don't know, Michelle Akers started it, or Karen, I don't remember.
I don't know. I think it was Jules.
Or Jules. Brandy, well, to me, where I think it was, she always wore sunglasses. And I think that was where it stemmed from. I don't know, but I can't remember.
Was she like one of those, she wore sunglasses indoors?
Maybe.
One of those people?
Come on. Of course, it's always sunny in my world.
But I think it started because she had her sunglasses on. But it was actually pretty smart, because the sun's not good for your eyes, B. So that was smart.
Thanks.
So I think it was always just like Hollywood. And then she put them above her head and be like, what's up? And I can't see you guys if I take my glasses off. So I have to put them back. But that goes back to, we didn't take ourselves too seriously. And I think, if we started to, at times, we had these great bunch of teammates and friends that held us accountable and be like, hey, come back down. We need you down on earth.
I just saw a message at the bottom of my screen from Kim Brady saying, we called you princess on the Tremors. I'm like, Kim, now you got to show your face and you got to talk about that, because
so Kim
Kim
told me
this.
Brandy,
I'm going to say I don't remember myself as a princess ever, but maybe I was, and I need a refresher.
Kim told me you gave her first concussion.
No, she gave me my last concussion.
Oh, last concussion.
Oh,
See, maybe I have a concussion. I don't know.
No, Brandy gave me my last concussion completely unintentionally, but because she was better than me and we were playing Santa Clara and they were beating us in the NCAA tournament and my legs got taken out from underneath me and she went and scored. So I remember that very vividly after the fact that I was taken out of the match. But on the Tremors, so I was a freshman at Cal when all of these players, when you could play kind of on a semi-pro team off season, and it was Michelle was on the team and Julie Foudy and Joy Fawcett and all these players, and Brandy was there too. And I'm intimidated behind, I'm the kid, I'm 17 years old, like playing with these guys and getting my butt beat and doing practices. And all of a sudden Brandy would show up like right before game time. And Alejandro's just like, yeah, go on. And everybody's like, okay, Princess is here with her little bag. And she just put her boots on and she's not even warm. And then Joy just finished a burger. And then they would just slay everyone. They would just slay everyone. And I'm sitting there as a sub, just grateful that I could be around them and get on the pitch after we're up like 5-0 or something so that, someone like me could go in. And so literally we used to joke that Brandy was called Princess because she would show up so late to start the warm up and just start and just play. We're like, God, she doesn't even have to train. She's so damn good. And that was just growing up. These were all the players that I got my butt beat by. So it's really kind of funny to give you that back, Brandy.
Oh,
that is funny. We used to call Foudy that when we had these victory tour games when we play, or I think it was then, and Jules would come in the day before. We're like, "What's up, Patty? Playoff? Just come in for the playoffs."
That's awesome.
Oh my God, Kristine, so you are funny.
Thank you. See, I've been trying to tell everyone that.
Ever tell you you're not funny? Brandy's just being mean.
No,
that's not true.
I said she's funny.
She's funny. She's funny. All right, we have lots of people and probably not enough time. Sunny in Arizona, you have the first question and you are up with the legendary Cal Ripken of soccer, Kristine Lilly.
Awesome. All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be on here just in the presence of all of you, like just engaging and interacting, and we're all just like watching, living in your world. So we appreciate it. My question is, I think there's obviously so much that goes into maintaining the level of greatness that you guys maintained for years, right? And so I'm curious today, removed from that day-to-day grind that you may have been doing just at a different time in your life, what are you doing today to fulfill that mental, psychological space in your life?
It's a really good question. That's hard. And I think, what I've realized, or maybe I just feel this way, that there's nothing comparing to playing. I've been coaching and, staying involved in the game, and I enjoy it, but I don't love it. I loved playing. And I think I loved playing because I loved everything that came with it, the training, to pushing myself to be whatever I can be. So now that I don't have that to play at the highest level, it's really hard to fulfill. And I spend my time, I just ran the Boston Marathon for the second time last year, and that gave me a great goal. And then I ended up qualifying, which was really funny. So I'm doing it again, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. But I think you need to find, I need goals. I need to set things up for myself. And I think I probably could do a better job than I am doing. But just juggling different things of coaching and being involved with the game with my kids. And then challenging myself when I do travel for appearances, and I get out of my comfort zone every time I do something, because I'm doing a lot of public speaking, and that's not something I always love. So always challenging myself to try to be better at that. So those are the new things that are, inspiring me to be better. And then obviously being a better husband, a wife, a mom, a friend, sister, all that stuff, those are the kind of elements that are fulfilling me now. But nothing, I haven't found anything yet. And maybe, that's all my character, that has fulfilled me as much as playing, because I did love it so much. And I truly loved what I was doing, but I loved the people that I was doing it with. And that's something, is so hard to find again.
I wonder... We've got Joe Jacoby on. Joe is an Olympic gold medalist, two-time Olympian. And Joe, I'm wondering, not to put you on the spot, but I am, is it the same for you? So you we're really in a two-person sport, and not a team sport. Has it been the same for you as Kristine described, and I'm sure Brandy would as well? And how weird is it that we have 3 Olympic gold medalists on this call?
I actually, I think I don't remember what your first Olympics were. Mine was '92, but I know we were teammates in 2004 in Athens, and I went to the finals in Athens. It was unbelievable. That game. We a whole nother conversation.
Yes.
It was absolutely an amazing game. Brazil, right? That was the final.
Overtime.
Yeah, that was great. Anyway, Scott, to your question, I think also just about Kristine, your comment about finding challenge, and I think part of it is also just me. It's a lesson in letting go. I think also it's like I have to let go of something in order to sort of like find a new vine to grab onto. Yep. And I think that's a really big part of it. And I think when you really explore like how much you're willing to let go, then you kind of you find some of these new perspectives. But I think that's just those are the words that come up for me, Scott. Mm-hmm. Letting go and that's not easy when you've been a part of something successful. And Kristine, I love what you said also, because I just feel it. It's about the people, like that's it. And it's like, and even that, it's like we're meant to learn something through these processes. I believe. I think we're really meant to learn something. And then how do we know when that chapter of learning is over? And how do we let go of it in the right way that's respectful and feels right, even if it feels hard sometimes, so that we can be at our best to learn something new and different. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely loving
it.
I'm loving this conversation. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Same question. To Sonny's initial point about, the transition from being a competitive player, how have you found kind of that next thing, or how do you find other things that motivate you?
Well, like Kristine, I mean, if I could play today, I would. I enjoyed it so much, and I think to Joe's point, the people are really the glue to keeping you there and to giving you purpose. But I also like what he said about, and I'm going to take this to heart, this lesson of letting go is really important. And it took me a long time to let go of being the player and trying to find something that could fill the gap. As Kristine's saying, she's looking for challenges, and it's hard to replicate what you experience as the player. But for me, coaching has definitely been something I'm interested in. I think we've had many conversations about my desire to coach our young national team players, and I hope one day that will come true. I continue to think that every day is a gift and a blessing and an opportunity. And so I have to, whether it's big or small, we don't have to win a world championship every day to be fulfilled. And I think it's really taking a moment of pause to recognize that parenting for me is the most important thing I can do. And some days I'm super good and some days I'm not so good. And so I'm trying to find my best parenting every day, and so that I can help my son be the best person that he can be in his future. So I'm taking every day as just a great opportunity to, whether it's looking at signs, looking at opportunities, looking at meeting people here with you, listening to Kristine, and being reminded of all the stories that we've shared, and that to me, and that it's okay that I don't have to have a gold medal hanging out in front of me as my purpose. I can find other reasons for doing things.
Awesome. Thank you for all three of you for sharing. So Sonny, that was like a trifecta.
Yeah.
Three
Wow.
Olympic
Didn't
gold
expect
medalists
that.
answering your question. Teg, without you, this call probably wouldn't happen. So you're up next with Kristine.
Awesome, thanks. Sonny, that's an amazing question. Kind of parlays into what I was going to ask, but a little bit more drilled in. Hi, Kristine. We first met at RJ Julia's bookstore in Madison, Connecticut.
Yeah.
I saw she was doing her book there in my hometown, and went to go see her, and it led to numerous things, and Kristine helping me out with some of my students at the high school level here in Connecticut with a workshop that involves Scott and some other folks too. The other thing too, just in terms of what I do, just being an educational based athletics administrator, Kristine and Brandy, I know you've heard it over the years, but I just got to say thank you for what you've done for inspiring young women back in the day and continuing to do so. It's just, that's kind of my purpose in life. And for you guys as players to be able to instill that. And again, I've got 3 boys. I have a niece. I don't have a daughter, but all my student athletes in my schools are my kids too. And just to have people like you to lean on and fall back on in life lessons for us to help teach young people is amazing. And that's a gift that'll keep on giving. That's your legacy. It's phenomenal. Following up on Sonny's question, it was kind of Kristine. So I'm kind of working through some things myself, like some next step concepts and whatnot. And so initially I thought questions were going to go in that teamwork vein, but I'm just wondering, even drilling down into you in some of your transition and writing the book, are there any potential teachable moments in terms of maybe some hard things that were in that discomfort zone for you that you were trying to figure out and saying, I'm going to write a book, and what does it mean and what it might parlay into, that you might have some teachable moments for some of us in this group that are working on next steps and next things and might be hesitant or trying to figure out how to pull the trigger. And again, what Joe was saying, certain things, figuring out how to let go to move on to the next process. So I don't know if there was a question in that or not, but
yeah, well, do my best. Well, I think, what writing a book was not something on my radar at all. But I think after speaking to my friends and their encouragement, it goes back to the support, your support system always to help you see things or get through things. And, with their help, and also my thought process of, sharing so much is like, oh, am I just throwing us out there that we are this great team, this and that? But coming from their perspective, it was more of, you guys have so much to offer other people. Your story has so much more to offer. So when I looked at it as that perspective of sharing our story in a sense of, gosh, this is what we did, and this is what helped us be successful, instead of being like, oh yeah, we did this, we did that, we're like that. It would change my mindset, and their help, my 2 friends, the help and process made me get over that hump of getting out of my comfort zone a bit, because writing's probably not my strongest suit. But with their help and working together on this and having such a great topic of all my teammates and friends was really wonderful. And I think, to the other part of your question of, the transition of going from something to something, it's never easy. I think change is hard, but change is also necessary. And then after Brandy listening to you talk and Joe listening to you talk, it's really hard for me maybe to let go, Joe, of we were at the highest level. We were the best of the best, playing on that national team. And now to think about me doing something and I'm like, oh gosh, am I not going to be the best of the best? Is that okay? Or so being okay with not being great, but but also part of me fights that because I want to be great at whatever I do, so I think that's been something that's been a real challenge for me also, to have that same mindset I had playing and taking it to somewhere else. Because I had so much confidence in what I did playing. Now I need to find that confidence in whatever else I'm choosing to take me to that next level. So that's definitely a transition, but it all goes back to your support. Your support system is I think it's really, really important. The people around you that believe in you, whatever your next steps are to be, to help you get there.
I think
Awesome.
if we're all pushing and trying to achieve and be true outliers, like we're going to be rookies a lot in our life. And you know, you probably went from Wilton, where you were, you know, best player, to UNC, and then rookie, and then, you know, to the national team. So it's like that constant evolution. We're always, you know, hopefully putting ourselves in the position to be a rookie again, and striving for success in whatever our new endeavor is. We are going to Randy in Florida. Randy, you're up with Kristine.
Good afternoon. This interesting question. What, because you have a long career, a lot of victories. What's the number one moment in your playing career that brought you to tears? And what were the tears about? I've spoken with a lot of athletes who've had a lot of success, and the answer to that question I found to be interesting. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Oh. Well, there are some moments that brought me to tears that I wish I could forget. But I'm gonna touch on that a little bit, because that was this also a lesson in it as well. So 2000 Olympics, we lost in the final to Norway in a game that we should have been up for nothing, I would say, at half. We did everything possible that we could have done to win that game, and in the end, we lost it. And I can remember going back to the locker room to change, to put our awards outfit on that we had to for the ceremony for the medals. And I remember coming out, and I remember being on the podium. The gold medals were here. We were here on the right side. And I remember my family was over here, kind of diagonal from where I was. And for the longest time, I couldn't look over there, because I was like, I felt so disappointed in our loss. It was so hurt. It was so painful, that loss, that I didn't want to look over my parents, because I didn't want them to be disappointed in me because we lost. And it took me a while, and I finally, like, I get choked up when I talk about it now. And I finally looked over there, and like my mom and dad were like, and smiling, and they were proud. And I think I share this story a lot with younger people I talk to, because, kids, even to parents, kids always want to make their parents proud, and I think I was, 2000, I was almost 30 years old, and I still wanted my parents to be proud of me. So that loss for me, I remember so vividly, because it hurt, but also of how proud my parents were. So there was like twofold for that. And then I think, the first 96 gold medal, I think, was something I remember, because as a kid, I dreamt that. I didn't dream about being in a World Cup, because it didn't exist, to the extent that it didn't exist for women. And I didn't really watch a lot of soccer growing up. It wasn't on TV, so I couldn't anyway. But anyway, but I always envisioned to be in the Olympics. And I remember walking out with our award ceremonies to go get our gold medal in our line B. I mean, I can take myself back there. And I remember getting ready to stand up on the podium, and it was so loud in there. And I think they said, U.S. team, and we all kind of stood there. We couldn't hear, and we all looked at each other. Like, oh, we got to step up. And we stood on the podium, and I just was so so happy, and so happy to be standing there with all my teammates, because we accomplished something that hadn't been done. We were the first, women's soccer team to win gold medal. And I think probably all of our dreams was to be a gold medalist or be in the Olympics. So that kind of brought me to tears, and just remembering that.
Thank you so much. And Scott, I told you I could get Kristine to get choked up.
Yeah, you did.
No, well done. Well played. You're like Barbara Walters. Alex, you're up.
Thank you so much. Thank you both for this amazing conversation. I'm learning a ton. And Brandy, I just wanted to personally thank you. I think when you took your shirt off in that game, it was a cultural moment for our entire country, really the world. So you really changed, I think, the world in many ways with that act. So I want to personally thank you for that. And it's not where we need it to be, but I think you did a lot for women, and just the conversation that most athletes don't have the privilege to do. So thank you for that act. I wanted to add, well, first, before my question, you said good and bad. I don't know if you're willing to give us a little taste, but what is your best and worst dance move? Can we get a little
my gosh.
example?
Yes.
Before my question, before my actual learning.
Here we go.
Question? I need to put something in my repertoire. Okay.
my
Oh,
Phenomenal.
Get it. Okay.
Elaine from
Go.
Seinfeld has nothing on you.
Yeah, see, right?
I got
That is
something.
tremendous.
Okay.
See, I never would have done that back in the day. But look at me now, B. Look at me now.
Yes. I love it. I'm feeling it. And I'm going to credit you on the dance floor.
Oh, this is on record. It is recording. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we are recording.
I won't put it on social media.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Just
It
for
might
me.
be a GIF if you do that, or a GIF, whatever they call it.
I already said Brandy needs her own gift with eat burgers and slay. You know.
Oh my God, Lil, you are so funny.
You are funny.
You are funny.
No, but seriously, my question now is similar to like Sunny's question, but I'll ask it a different way. Like, I mean, you've had so much success throughout your careers. I mean, you're chasing that, vision of success for the medals. I'm curious, like, if you could both tell us maybe a vision of what success looks like now, and maybe people in your life that you would consider successful outside of soccer, and what that kind of looks like. Because I think from us, I just see kind of athletes in the athlete persona of success, and I don't get to see kind of what success looks like on a maybe personal level. So
Yeah.
curious what that looks like.
Well, I got out of bed today. That was a success. It's good. That's a good, and I think that's part of the transition from what we accomplish at the highest level and coming back to our daily life and having a different definition of success. And I think if everyone that was asked the definition of success, it would be different for everyone per se. For us on the national team was to be the best in the world and to win, so that was the easy definition. But I think now, for me, a successful day, if I had 3 things on a list, I got those 3 things done, to be honest with you, because I sometimes I have things in the air all the time and I forget, and it leaves me a little bit stressed. So for the simplicity of my mindset, I have to, make a list. And if I can get these 3 things done, then I can feel like, okay, that was a successful day. Because if I try to do all 8 and I don't get them done, I'm all stressed about it. So those are just the little things for myself. And I think, more so as a parent, which Brady just touched on a little bit, that's the challenge in itself. Finding little successes within that with my 2 daughters is really something I focus on, and to win the little battles, not make everything, not push the button so far where you're, it's not going to end well. Be like, okay, well, that one's not worth it today. Let's just focus on this. So for me, parenting is probably something I've been trying to focus on with my kids. And that is a challenge in itself in sports for me as a parent with my kids playing sports, because I know what they can do. I've seen it, and I've seen them do it at their highest level. And then when they don't, I have a really hard time understanding, or how to approach that with them, because I can't remember as a kid how I felt, at 14 about being on the field, but I always felt like I gave my best. So when I see my kids, when I know what their best is and I see them that they can't do it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't watch this right now. But then I have to find ways to, like, okay, well, whatever happened that day, this is where they are, and trying to find those. So for me, little successful days are just connecting with my kids and finding 1 or 2 things that I think I should focus on that they did great today for me. And then off of just playing, of myself, I told you those little things throughout the day. And then for me, just doing something exercise wise, whether it's a hike in the woods with my dog, or go for a run, go to the weight room, something that gets me outside and exerting some energy is something that I feel good about at the end of the day. If I don't do it, I just was like, oh, I got to get out tomorrow, and I don't feel as great. So those are the little successes that help me get through the day.
Love it. We're going to try to go very quickly, Vikram, and then we're going to Jason.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
Kristine, really, really happy to kind of be here, be in this wonderful group of leadership. I want to take you back to when you were 14. So I'm a dad of twins. I got a boy and a girl, and they both play competitive. So one plays competitive basketball, and my daughter just finished up playing volleyball. She's in the on the high school volleyball team. And one of the disappointing things that just came out recently was, I mean, she's a great player. She works well. She works hard. She serves well. And in the last game of the tournament, she was allowed to sit in for both sets. It was pretty disappointing to actually see her sit on the sidelines, but still kind of be like, I'm here for the team and I'm going to support the team. So as my wife and I were watching her, you know, we were super, super disappointed. But then I was like taking the big picture, the biggest sort of perspective on life, which is she got selected to be a part of the high school volleyball team. She's played well. She's upped her game, all of that. Take you back to like the advice to a guy like me, like who's a parent, you know, shuffling things around, working with her, working with him. Um, how do you sort of deal with that scenario where did you ever have to go through that, like when you were 14, sort of like an imposter syndrome where you say like, I'm not just good enough, or I've sat out, or you know, my coach didn't really allow me to play my best game ever. So how do you sort of deal with that with a child who's at 14 and she knows she's pretty damn good at her game and she's going to get there, but then she's allowed to sit for the entire game? So that kind of never made sense to me. And this whole concept that Scott talked about, which is diversity and inclusion, to actually be good at something or be at a powerhouse, you have to have people with like good diverse behaviors and traits to actually work as a team, right? So sort of a little bit of a loaded question there. How did you deal with that as you were growing up, you know, as a young 14-year-old?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was 10, I got cut from the baseball, all-star baseball team. And I remember this to the day. I mean, baseball was my first love. I was going to play second base for the New York Yankees. I was going to do all these wonderful things. And I remember I didn't make the team. And I was kind of, I was just like, what? And I was the only girl on the team. So obviously my parents were like, well, we could fight this. I was like, no, you know what? I didn't make it. So the next year I tried out and I made it. So I'm not sure what my mindset was at that moment, but I tell you that I didn't stop working. You know, I tried, you know, I kept going after for next year and I made it. Um, and I think what's happening a lot in our culture today with kids is there's always other options. So especially if you look at club sports. So if a kid doesn't make a team there, they're like, oh, we can go play there and make this team. You know, we're giving kids excuses that, okay, well, if you don't hear, we have another place for you to play. So I think what I'm not saying I'm very good at this as a parent, but what I'm trying to work on is letting your kids go through those things. You know, they're going to figure it out. They have to, you know, instead of us solving the problem for them, because I went through a lot of things when I was younger. You know, you went through, you know, trying to fit in. I was traveling on the national team, which I was very homesick. So I was constantly missing home and always, you know, kind of sad in a sense, you know, but I kept pushing through. And none of us want to see our kids sad or anything. You want to just take that away from them, but they got to go through it. And that's probably one of the hardest things as a parent, for you to see your kids go through some things that aren't easy. But I think that's where they grow. And I mean, it seems like your daughter, you know, not playing that game, she was like, okay, well, my other responsibility is to be a good teammate, you know, no matter how hard it was for you to see, and know the talent that she may have. So I think as parents, we got to let our kids go through stuff. And, you know, it's the hardest thing, I think, for us to do, but that's the one thing, that's what I had to go through. I know we all probably did it in this room. I know we all can reach back to something in your childhood that wasn't easy, wasn't fun, sad maybe. But we all got through it. And I think we're better off because of it.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
love it,
mindset.
Kristine.
It's
Thank you.
adversity. Adversity is a gift, and because it builds resiliency, which we're all going to need at you know, different points in our life. Jason, you're up.
So I played little college soccer, and as a teammate, I was more the guy that made everybody laugh. I was not the contributor for my 2 years. So and I coach some club now. My daughter's team won the state cup actually in Florida, pretty decent team. But
Nice.
I guess my question on that was, you just touched on playing baseball. So I was going to ask you, you know, in today's environment, we see these dedicated, you know, play club soccer. It's like 10,